Alright guys, so let's have a look at the law of reflection. So what we want you to do by the end of this is we want you to be able to understand the law of reflection. And what that means in science is we want you to be able to make predictions based on it. So if something is coming, so if light is coming in at one angle, what does it mean when it goes away? So to do this, to even talk about it, we need to be using the same words, right? So we're going to talk about the normal. By the way, when we're talking about this, we're talking about rays of light bouncing off a mirror. We could talk about a whole image, for example, like this. But essentially, this one image is like pixels on a screen, right? It's just trillions and trillions and trillions of rays of light that are then bouncing off, or photons, which are bouncing off and acting as though they're separate rays of light. Well, for our purposes, that's fair enough. So the first thing we need to, and we're talking about mirrors, we're talking about planar mirrors, which means flat. Planar is P-L-A-N-A-R. Planar. So a flat mirror. The normal is an imaginary line that is perpendicular to the surface. Okay, it's like 90 degrees, right? So it's like 90 degrees here at a right angle. Boom. Magic. That's your normal. And it's an imaginary line. The incident ray is the ray of light coming from the light source. Okay? The reflected ray is the ray of light that is being reflected off of the surface. So like a ray of light comes in from a torch, boom, hits the mirror, or hits the flat surface, and bounces off. The angle of incidence is the angle between the the incident ray, and the normal. Okay? And the angle of reflection is the angle of the reflected ray, the angle that the reflected ray makes, with the normal. So here, we are seeing, if you will, a very simple two angles, okay, and two rays, and we're going to look at what happens with comparing those. For example, the law of reflection, what is it? Well, a little bit more vocabulary. This symbol here is theta, and this is the symbol for angle. So whenever you see this in either maths or science or anywhere really, except for an old Greek textbook, we are talking about the symbol for an angle. So the angle of incidence, that's this angle here, equals the angle of reflection. So basically, the angle which it comes in at is going to be the same as the angle that it leaves. The other way to write this is that theta I for incident, equals theta r. Theta meaning angle of incidence equals the angle of reflection. It's the same as when you bounce a ball off a wall, or when you're playing snooker and you hit the ball off the bumpers on the side. The ball comes in and comes off at the same angle. Alright, hope that made sense. And yeah, we'll play around with that later on. See you next time. Thanks for watching. Bye now.